welcome. You are here. The exclusive location, the only place where you can hear Beyond the Yonder, which is the full interview. The interviews that beget the radio cuts for Yonder Radio. If you don't know the show, yonderradio.com, or listen wherever you get podcasts. It's incredible. And this is the raw material. This is the natural resource, freshly unearthed. This gold you're about to hear with Laurie and Joe. Laurie gets asylum from Venezuela. Joe, he's ascending. He's produced by Bela Fleck. The Grammys have taken notice. And then they find each other. We'll get to that. Let's take a listen. I think it's working. So this interview, a couple notes. One, we could barely hear each other, and we actually lose their video about halfway through. Still, we forge forth. Thank you, Larry and Joe. And it's 5 parts for this incredible journey you're about to take. The first part, Laurie's story, a 6-year-old making a living in the street, shining shoes and singing, and he's discovered. The second part, Joe's story, what I mentioned before, getting to that point in COVID where he's plateauing and wondering what the next move is. 3, their meeting and forming what you're about to hear. And 4, immigration in America and what that means to Laurie as things have changed. It's profound. And 5, what they're doing now, what is next, and how it all involves a minivan that's also like a clown car for the many instruments they play. All right, let's talk. So how is the tour going, Larry and Joe?
Well, the tour is off to a good start. We flew in to LAX from Raleigh, Durham a couple days ago, and we played Santa Monica last night at one of our favorite venues, McCabe's Guitar Shop. So it was a nice, familiar way to start this run. We're just doing an 8-day jaunt across the state of California.
And this jaunt, is it to support a certain album, or is this you're playing the hits?
Well, so we're gearing up to make another album, but we haven't been to California in a couple years. And so while we're out here, we're presenting our mostly stuff from our second album, Manos Panamericanos. And it's nice to finally get to play this music here. It was kind of crazy when we got here. We realized we haven't been here since 2024, since before our album came out. So people here haven't heard any of this stuff. And that makes it easy on us because we've played it a million times since then. So we're just this is the last market to play that music in before we've played it everywhere we play in the States. And then, we'll kind of refresh the repertoire, which we've already been working on. But as the year advances, we'll eventually get into the recording studio and cut another album.
Well, one day your story is going to make one heck of a VH1 behind the music. And I'd start with Laurie. And Joe will translate for us here or do some interpreting here. But Laurie, you start your professional career at 6 years old, shining shoes and singing. And then you get noticed. Tell us about how did you get noticed as a shoe shiner, which catapulted your music career?
Vos iniciaste tu carrera musical a los 6 años, limpiando botas y cantando simultáneamente. ¿Y cómo es que terminaste llamándole la atención a la gente en ese entonces para arrancarte esta carrera?
Bueno, al principio es que cantaba canciones de un grupo muy famoso de la República Colombiana.
So at the beginning, I sang songs by this very famous group from Colombia.
Y mi voz, pues, era bastante dulce y la gente le llamaba mucho la atención como niño.
And my voice was very sweet. And it, since I was a little kid, a sweet little kid's voice caught people's attention.
Y ya a los 11 años, cuando pude llegar a un sitio donde dictaban clases musicales,
And at the age of 11, when I was finally able to get connected with a music teaching entity,
se dieron cuenta inmediatamente porque mi aprendizaje era muy rápido.
local music educators realized that I was a quick learner.
Y en menos de 6 meses estaba apoyando a mi profesor haciendo clases para los niños, para los demás compañeritos.
And within 6 months of enlisting in that institution, I was able to help my teachers give classes to the other students.
Fue muy rápido el comienzo para ser el músico y ganar dinero.
And so I was quickly able to start making money off of music.
Yeah, at 11 years old, I've read, you were already independent and making a living as a musician.
A los 11 años ya eras músico de carrera. Mucha gente tiene que esperar una vida entera para lograr vivir del dinero. And what was the question?
Oh, I mean, here he is, a kid. Is he scared? Is he hopeful? I mean, I just am wondering about what that's like as a very young child.
¿Y cómo era esa experiencia? ¿Tenías miedo siendo niño tan joven? ¿Qué sentías?
En realidad no tenía miedo, era mi mejor refugio.
To be honest, I was not afraid. Music was my refuge. ¿Y tu carrera musical y ganar dinero de eso no te asustaba?
No, para nada, me sentía súper seguro, me emocionaba.
And I was very sure of myself, and I had a lot of fun.
Claro que al principio no sabía que podía ganar dinero haciendo algo que me gustaba.
At the beginning, I actually didn't realize that I could make money off of something that I enjoyed.
Pero rápido fue el desenvolvimiento y el comienzo en la carrera musical.
But things happened real quick, and all of a sudden I was starting my musical career.
No, that is incredible. And the secret to life is making money at something you enjoy. And then, Joe, you are a multi-instrumentalist and you're getting some attention. And then during COVID, you find yourself stranded. Talk about this. What was that like for a musician who's ascending the ranks and then was there a feeling of being stuck? Is that what sent you internationally, or was that part of the plan anyway?
Yeah. So, prior to the pandemic, I had this band in Argentina called Che Apalache, which incidentally is going to do a reunion tour next year. But so like from 2013, I lived in Argentina from 2010 to 2020. And my band Che Apalache was kind of like working the Buenos Aires underground as a bluegrass band, but then we started using bluegrass instruments to play Latin American folk music, and such was born the concept of LatinGrass. Mind you, this is a band that I started with my students. It's not like there's a huge bluegrass scene in Argentina, or there wasn't at the time. And so we started doing this fusion project, and we came to the States for some cultural enrichment activities through some grants. Eventually caught the ear of Bela Fleck, and he produced our second album, Rearrange My Heart, which was nominated for a Grammy. To make the long story very short, this little band that could had this great run in the United States, but then the pandemic kind of like shattered the operation. And our band I'm from the US, two of the members were from Argentina, one was from Mexico. So we kind of disbanded and ended up in our respective countries. And so, but I'm a lifelong musician, so I've always kind of just rolled with the punches. It was another project that got complicated for a minute. And in that period of kind of riding out the pandemic, I met Larry. And Larry is a career musician who, talk about having to roll with the punches. He was a middle-class musician in Venezuela, but then his country went to hell in a handbasket. And for his family's safety, they became migrants. And by the grace of the universe, enlisted in the applied for asylum in the United States and wound up in Raleigh, North Carolina. And at which point, when he got to my home state, he began working construction to provide for his family. So this is a long-winded answer to your question, but basically, I was kind of fortunate to, in this moment when my band that was on the rise, like you said, kind of got screwed by the pandemic, I met this dude and I was like, oh, so all of a sudden I'm not the teacher of my students in Latin America. Rather, I'm back home and I'm working with a brilliant Latin American who's going to teach me all this new music. It was like a full circle moment for me. So I went with it. And that's what's fun about a musical career, because any career musician will tell you, even if it looks like their career was up, 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 it's never that way. You just have to you got to keep reinventing yourself and rolling with it and learning new stuff. Unless you've got a money making machine behind you, but most of us don't, So it's
neither of you are nepo babies.
No, not at all. But that's beneficial because it keeps our feet on the ground. Nepo babies, I mean, we don't really have a concept of that because that's not our lives. I'm sure some nepo babies are awesome people, whatever. Just because you're born with or without money, I don't think it says that much about you. But yeah, there are you can trace back a lot of quote unquote successful musicians to big bucks, but we kind of do it the old fashioned way, one gig at a time, in a minivan. It's very bluegrass, even though we do fusion. We just roll around the country in our minivan and play gig after gig and make fans that way. And it's more meaningful because there's like this very intimate human experience with everyone who becomes a fan of our music.
Larry, when you moved to America, could you have imagined what you have created today?
Cuando te mudaste a Estados Unidos, ¿te hubieras imaginado lo que hoy tenías al nivel musical?
No, jamás pasó por mi cabeza.
No, it never crossed my mind that I would be living this.
Era pensar en imposible porque decía, no me van a entender ni lo que canto ni lo que toco.
It seemed impossible because I figured no one was going to understand neither what I said nor what I played.
No sabía que llegaba a un país donde hay todos los idiomas habidos inventados.
I didn't realize that I had come to a country where, so many languages were flourishing.
Tenemos un concepto de que aquí en Estados Unidos se habla solo inglés.
And I figured that, we have this erroneous concept that in the United States only English is spoken.
Pero cuando conocí a Joe y llegamos a la comunidad hispana y a la comunidad americana.
But when I met Joe and we started playing for both the Latin American community and the non-Latin American community of the United States,
logré sentir que la gente no solo entendía por el idioma del habla, sino por el idioma de la música.
I realized that a lot of people not only understood what I was saying, but also understood my musical language somehow.
Y comenzó la magia de sonar juntos y despertar sentimientos lindos.
And that's when the magic of creating sound together as this duo was born. and ¿y qué?
Despertar sentimientos.
And we started. It's a beautiful expression in Spanish. We started waking up sentiment or emotions in other people, eliciting emotional response. I don't know a beautiful poetic way of translating that to English, but yeah, to sort of like reach people's hearts, I guess. And that's what this duo does, because
what is that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just what is that phrase again?
Despertar
In Spanish?
sentimientos. Despertar sentimientos is to wake up emotions or sentiment in other people. And I think probably a good translation is to touch people's hearts, which is also a really cool idiomatic expression. But this is a prime example of how this like cross cultural bridge stuff works. You know, there's like the idiosyncrasies of each culture are different, so even the translation or interpretation, better put, of each other's way of speaking is like a foray into the Larry and Joe concept. We're between cultures and we're in that in-between space. And not everyone can get down with it, obviously. A lot of people don't have any interest in it. But there are a lot of people in the United States who love it, because they too either aspire to be in a multicultural space, or they are multicultural. Like last night in Santa Monica was crazy. Like most of the audience, así como gran parte del público era latina, ¿no?
Mm-hmm.
There were all these like competing bluegrass and old time events in LA last night. Incidentally, it was just really bad timing for that crowd. So we're like, oh man, dang, no one's gonna come. That's not true. A lot of people came, and it was all the Chicanos and Latinos, and it was such a cool experience, because like, yeah, that part of our audience was tied up with other stuff. There were these great events happening, but then we had this really hip, intimate crowd of like the Latino portion of our fans and the people who were more into that music and had no idea that there was this like bluegrass and old time stuff happening concurrently in the city. So it's just cool. We sort of get to look through a different lens as we sort of dip our toes in various scenes, you know. And sometimes those scenes, and oftentimes those scenes, come together in our audiences, and there is something like magical about that, because these are people that go see live music. We're not just talking about, you know, people. We're talking about independent music lovers, you know, of people that go and see joropo. Like there's people that only go see joropo, but they're like, I want to go see joropo, but this duo is not exactly that, but it's got some of it, and then they wind up at our show. And the same thing happens with like old time bluegrass and trad musicians. They're not really into Latin American music, but
they'll enjoy it nonetheless.
I think there's like a little delay, so I keep like stepping on your words.
No, it's okay. We get this a lot. I feel like I'm interviewing a wartime correspondent in the Middle East, and it seems like you're seeing growth in fans, though. This is working. I mean, what you're doing is good.
Yeah, it's growing. I mean, from our vantage point, dicen que todavía somos una banda nueva. Y desde nuestra perspectiva es abrumante. Yeah, from our perspective, being called a new band or a band on the rise is like, what? Because we're over 4 years deep, and we've played like 39 states and 500 gigs, or gigs / functions, outreaches or whatever, 500 engagements. That feels like a long time. It feels like we've done a lot, but in the industry, 5 years is kind of where you start seeing. Everyone says 5 years is the mark. We've only been, touring nationwide since 2023. So it's still what they call a new band. Doesn't feel like it for us, because we've done so much, but the truth is that it is still, and it is, and our fans are growing, and our opportunities are growing. We get more calls just to play because people have heard about us. We don't have to reach out.
It seems like the trick is the both of you play so many instruments, you don't have to have a whole bunch of personalities in the minivan at the same time. It could just be the two of you and 10 different musical toys.
Yeah, that's true. No, es que no tenemos que sumar a más personajes al dueto. Porque somos, al ser dos y tocamos muchos instrumentos, simplificamos la vaina así. Yeah, it's a very good observation. We just have to work things out between the two of us.
De hecho, cuando armamos el background de los instrumentos, pareciera que viene una banda grande.
Yeah, when we put our instruments on stage, it looks like there's going to be a septet, but no, it's just the two of us.
Hey, Larry, things have changed for people who have been granted asylum, and I'm hoping A, that you're doing okay, and B, if so, what can you tell people about how?
La vaina ha cambiado para gente solicitantes de asilo y quiere saber cómo es tu situación, cómo ha cambiado en estos tiempos, qué sientes, etcétera.
Bueno, la situación en realidad cambia todos los días.
So the situation changes like every day, to be honest.
Por eso mismo, no hay un enfoque o un pensar directo de cómo nos sentimos porque puede cambiar de hoy a mañana.
So we really can't focus in on how we feel because that could change between today and tomorrow.
Entonces, yo en lo personal decido vivir, no sobrevivir.
So on a personal level, I have decided to live, not to survive.
Por eso trato de llevar una vida tranquila.
So I try to, keep things chill in my life.
Aunque han sucedido momentos muy tristes, como en noviembre, pues todo lo que estaba pasando me quebró.
Even though very sad situations have happened, like last November, which brought me to tears. And I'll interject, what he's referring to is when Greg Bovino brought ICE and Border Patrol, like after LA and Chicago, they came to North Carolina and cracked down before they were chased out because North Carolina ran them out, which was awesome to see. But it was like a dark moment of the soul for Larry and his community, and for me and all these other allies, because our communities are a community. You know what I mean? It's not like they're separate. We have a multi-ethnic, multicultural society in North Carolina.
Y para sanar eso, fue muy bonito lo que pasó, porque la comunidad en North Carolina, la comunidad americana, salió en defensa del migrante.
And to heal that sadness, that immense sadness, it was very beautiful to see the non-migrant community in North Carolina come out in support of us.
Y eso nos llenó tanto de valor como de un sentimiento bonito para vivir.
And that filled us with valor en el sentido de autovalorarse.
Sí.
O de valentía. De autovalorarse.
Sí, valorarse.
This is a good word in Spanish. So and that filled our community up with valor, which you can interpret as both like self-worth and courage. And that helped us to continue.
Well, Larry Bellorín, words to live by is to live. And Joe, you and Larry helping people do that across the country. And you can learn more about them at larryandjoe.com. And what is next?
Well, right now we're on this California tour, but in the summer we will be all over the Mid-Atlantic. We'll be in the Midwest. We'll be in Colorado, and then we'll be back to the Northeast and New England. And then later in the fall, we're going to be all over the Deep South, the South, and other parts of like the lower Midwest. All that goes to say is Larry and Joe's going to keep doing what we do, rolling all over the country in a minivan and playing music for you. So we hope that the people will come out to a live show. That's where the magic really happens. And, when we're not on the road, we'll be making another album and having fun doing what we do, one song at a time, all over the lower 38 states.